Hello, my friends. I am back. I am back. As you know, or don't know, or about to find out, I was in New York for New York Comic Con, and I was also in New York for the world premiere of Venom: The Last Dance, Venom 3. Venom, Venom, Venom. Oh my god. I have so much to say. If you saw my out of the theater review, you know my initial interpretation of this film, and if you haven't seen it yet, it's probably the very last video on this channel. My out of the theater review, it was very quick. It was 2 minutes long because that's all I was allowed to say. But now we have the full authority, the full autonomy to give our spoiler reviews for Venom 3. And I will be giving my spoiler reviews. This right here, right now, is my non-spoiler review. I didn't like it. If you are looking for my non-spoiler talk conversation, go watch the prior video. That was 2 minutes of me just kind of uttering my emotions, my feels on what this movie is. But if you want to watch this on your own and kind of get your own interpretation of this film, stop it here. Suffice it to say, a lot of the things that you're hoping to get out of this is still non-spoiler. A lot of the things that you're hoping to get out of this film, I'm telling you right now, you will not get it. Look at me. Look at me. Where's my eye line? Look me in the eye, non-spoiler. Everything that you want, you will not get. Okay, cool, awesome. Now that we're there for the non-spoilers, I've let the non-spoilers know. Now let's dig deep into the spoiler review of this film because I need to. There's a lot that I want to say and I want to get off my breath, and I'm just kind of disappointed. I mean, and it's frustrating because I talk to a lot of my comic book and superhero and movie and Marvel and DC and Sony friends who really chew on this type of media and really break down this type of media. And it's interesting because, you know me, I'm very much a Disney princess. I'm very optimistic. I'm very hopeful for the future. I'm very hopeful for the future of cinema and just people in general. So I give people so many chances. And when I talk about with them my disappointment on this film, they kind of say, well, what did you expect? It's Sony. And it's so disappointing because then, you know, I'm reminded that Craven is Sony, and I watch Venom 3 and I see what happened with Venom 3 and I'm like, oh, but I'm so excited. I want to be so excited for Craven, and now knowing truly in my soul that it is a Sony product, it makes me sad, and it makes me walk in with a different mindset into Craven. And now let's talk about Venom 3, now that I've kind of talked about that. But again, I just want to point out that I was at the premiere. This is my image. This is me on the red carpet for the premiere of Venom 3. So you know everything that I'm talking about is someone who genuinely was there in one of the best audiences, with the cast, with the crew, with the productions, with fans. They brought fans to see this film, as well as content creators who are in the know and talk about this. And that's kind of the general hub that I am a part of. I'm part of the creators who come to these films and talk about their experiences. I also am there because I make, you know, intricate outfits. But the big thing is I go there, I watch the films, and I talk about it, and I share my experiences with you from a different kind of a mindset. But that's enough about me. Let's talk about this film. We're 3 minutes in on this, 10-minute video, but let's talk about it. Right off the bat, if you've stayed this long, I'm just going to let you know there are 2 post-credit scenes, and none of the 2 post-credit scenes had Andrew Garfield. They didn't have Toby. They didn't have Andrew. They didn't have Tom. There was no Spider-Man affiliations in this whatsoever. Point blank period. There is no Spider-Man. Okay, so if you're here for the video for that, you can leave now because there is no Spider-Man in Craven 3. That's it. There is no continuation. The movie does open up. Interestingly enough, it opens up with Tom Hardy with Eddie sitting at the bar. We know he kind of was going through the multiverse, and he's talking to the bartender, and everything he's talking about is very clear that we are in the 616 universe. We're in Marvel, and so there's a moment where we're like, oh my god, is this the moment where we're crossing worlds, where we're finally going to get Sony and Marvel together at last, and we get to see them? So it starts off with him talking to the bartender, talking about, what do you mean, like the big purple guy snapped his finger and half your family disappeared? And the bartender's like, yeah, man, like stop joking about it, this is real. And then a portal opens up and he's sucked back into his own universe. And so we have the briefest glimpse of the possibility of what we want. And then, of course, if he's sucked back into his own timeline, if he's sucked into his own dimension, we're not going to see any of the people that we want to see. It's not going to happen. They're all in very different dimensions. But he's sucked back into his time, and of course, all the debacle of him murdering someone, he's being hunted by the FBI, all of that is still there. But then, that's like the beginning of the movie. the beginning of what the heck I just watched is completely different because it's very clear that they added this weird overture null thing. Before all of that, there's this weird overture that was very, very clear to those of us who know. They added that at the last minute. That image that we see of Null with the necro sword, you know, of him just like holding that there and him looking down. We've seen this image all over. It's this image. We've seen that image of him just like looking down at the necro sword with his bangy bangs, his hair floating down. That image, it's very clear in this film. They filmed Null once, and they just kept using that same image at different distances over and over and over and over again, and it just felt lazy. This whole movie felt lazy and just like a throwaway, and like they didn't care. But they added this weird ADR image of him talking about himself and like what it's like his whole backstory, and it just felt like we didn't need that, especially considering in the entirety of the film, they talked about Null and what was happening. All the symbiotes were talking about, oh, he's coming, and this is the reason why he's coming, and this is the backstory of him, and then he comes from Oblivion, and he comes from the dark. Like, that added nothing. It added nothing other than it took away the moment when we actually get to see him later in the film. And for me, I was just like, why? Like, it, when that happened, when we saw that beginning, and it's maybe 20 seconds long. But the second that we saw that beginning ADR mess of Null just giving the entire movie away, essentially, I turned to my friend and was like, oh no. Oh no, this is bad. This is not good. It's no good. So we're continuing to watch it. And I think that if you really like the relationship between Eddie and Venom, you're still going to be fed with this movie. There's a lot of really cute moments because this is a good... It's supposed to be a goodbye movie. It's supposed to be a send-off of Eddie and Venom. It's supposed to be, you know, a really good brotherly bonding movie. These are friends. These are bros. These are comrades. This is a really dysfunctional relationship, but also a very trusting and loving relationship. These two beings, Eddie and Venom, would do anything for each other because they've continually showed each other that they would always have each other's back, no matter what. That's love. In a weird, deep, dark, depressive, angry way, this is love and this is friendship. And in that, it's beautiful. All that to say that if you care about that relationship, you still will be fed. So that's still okay. There is, I think, 5 action scenes. We do get to see him ride the horse and become a frog, and there's cute little moments. But like the B story of this doctor who it's weird, like nothing is really explained. There's the female doctor that everyone swears. I've never really seen her in anything else. It's this woman here. I've never seen her in anything else, but everyone swore that she was a great actress. I swear to God, it felt like this was the very first thing she ever acted in. The very first scene that she's in, it was weird. I don't know if it was the editing or what, but it felt like high school line reading on a stage play. It felt like she was reading her lines from a cue card. It didn't feel genuine. It didn't feel like the character. And they were like, Saturday morning card, what do you mean Christmas? I love Christmas, and Christmas is great. Thanks, guys. Like, it just felt very early Degrassi, and it didn't feel like a high budget Sony film, or like a closing of a final. It didn't feel like a blockbuster. It didn't feel like a blockbuster. It felt like Hallmark Channel. It felt like Hallmark, and that's wild. That is wild. Anyway, the commander or the general felt like he was just there to play stereotypical mean commander guy, and it just, nothing made sense. These are alien life forms, and there was no motivation. It didn't feel like anyone was earning the moments that they were getting. And the woman, the scientist that I was talking about earlier, she had this backstory which was weird and thrown in, and I didn't even think her backstory could have just been she loved science. She loved science. She loved preserving nature, and she loved learning about extraterrestrials and understood that this is intelligent life, and that could have been it. It could have been that is enough. But they gave her this weird sub backstory of her brother wanting to be an astronaut and go into space, but they're like running on the beach when they're young, and lightning struck and I believe killed her brother, but left her with the scars up her arm, like lightning bolt scars. But it's weird because from what I think, and it's never really truly 100% explained, I think that made this arm unusable, or damaged or like disabled, but they never really explain that or show that. They just see her like putting on a coat and not putting that arm in, or like I don't know, like that's the only kind of indication. And so you're like, is that not a usable tool in your arsenal? But then later on, they show like when she finally gets her own, because all of the doctors essentially, one of the symbiotes combines with them. It turns out that every freaking scientist is capable of accepting the symbiote, even though the whole thing is you have to be adaptable too. Like the symbiote has to bond with you. You have to be compatible, or so I thought. But every single one of these scientists that are in this room and battling the big bad, the sisters, like Noel sends these little dog creature, tentacle creatures after Eddie and Venom because they want to get like the whatever chrome, the thing that's gonna help Noel get to Earth and everywhere, like to release him from the prison. They need this piece that Eddie and Brock have because they died together, their bodies officially merged together, and therefore it created this entity that Noel needs in order to be released from his prison. That's the movie. That's what's happening. That's what we need. And the only way that these little dog tentacle creatures can find them is if they fully form. So like Venom can use his little whips. He can put his head out. But if he completely masses himself around Eddie, it's not as bad. He can't. That's when the dogs see him. That's when they take him and they bring him back to Null. So it creates conflict in the film. But at the end, obviously, there's a bunch of dogs running around. We need more than just Venom and Eddie. So all of the other symbiotes they've been collecting latch on to a scientist, and that made me so mad because I love Scree. I love my Venoms. I love my symbiote alternatives, and they mix them up. They mixed up the colors. They mixed up who they were, and like they did the Power Ranger thing. They did the Power Ranger thing where the girl has to be the pink one. So they changed the female symbiote, who's originally yellow and badass. They made her pink. Why do you do that? Don't do that sexist stuff. That's silly. Just make the characters what they are. That's what we want. What we want is to see our comic book characters come to life. You don't got to change that, Sony. You got the rights. The rights are yours. Just do it. Just do it. Nike. Anyway, God diggity. It's just crazy. What are you doing? Like, you have the blueprint. I digress. This scientist and her lightning bolt. So there she is, right? She's now got the pink, because she's blonde. So she got the pink symbiote. It's not really pink. She's supposed to be yellow. Anyway, but she like gets the symbiote on her, and we see like the lightning bolt, because of course the Venoms, they heal the bodies. We see the lightning bolt go away, and you see her do this like hand thing, like she like grips it like she's about to fight. But in my mind, I'm like, oh, were you not able to use that before? Is that supposed to be a moment? Because that was not explained, and that is everywhere in this movie. It's so many things that like, oh, was that a thing from before that you didn't explain? Okay, for sure, I'm now caught up, and that's this movie. Like, also, I watched this movie in 4DX. Listen, 4DX, I love you. This is not a complaint on you necessarily. It's just a complaint on, this is a movie I genuinely wanted to absorb and to watch. And if I was watching Twisters, yeah, like I want to feel like I'm in a Twister. I want to feel that fear. But Venom was not the movie I wanted to see in 4DX. I wanted to just experience this movie as a comic book lover, as a connoisseur of these characters, and as a closing of a franchise of this is the third movie. I want to just be on this emotional ride with this character. They did this montage at the end that was supposed to be, because Venom, sacrifices himself to save Eddie and save everyone, because anti-heroes, that's what you gotta do. You gotta sacrifice yourself to prove that you are the hero and no longer the anti. And so we see him doing that, and that was his goodbye. They had the goodbye montage that was six little clips long. 2 from the first, 2 from the second, and 2 from the last, or it felt like 14 from the last. It felt like the montage clip of "As We Go." That's not the actual music, but like it was supposed to be this beautiful montage showing the journey of Eddie and Venom throughout their entire relationship, and it's supposed to be like love and like, brother, I'm gonna miss you. And it was just like weird little clips. It seemed like they just looked for clips of just when they happened to be smiling at the same time, which didn't make sense because it was supposed to be the moments that mattered, the moments that made us feel vulnerable and that made us feel like we were also Venom, that we are Venom. But it just didn't feel like heart, and it didn't feel like love, and it just felt like clips. It just felt like a couple of clips because someone said we needed a montage, we're just gonna throw it in there. This movie could have been amazing, but there were so many things that was too irritating about it to make it good. It's the acting. It was the phoning in of moments that should have been comic book significant. It was taking away the genuine article of the symbiotes and turning them into products. They could have been on their own so powerful and so cool, and it just felt like this is a great kids movie, I think, but it's not made to be a kids movie. It could have been a really cool, you know, 13 PG-13 film. I think if they would have slapped that on and just made it the PG-13 movie that it felt like, that would be fine. But this movie isn't necessarily marketed for comic book lovers or for adults. It's just for people who wanted to finish the franchise. That's it. Those are my hard critiques on this film. That's it, really. I'm gonna put this video up. If you guys have comments, questions, or concerns, put them in the comments, man. Let's fight in the comments. I'm excited. Let's talk about this. And when you guys watch it and you come back to this film, I do want to know your interpretation, because there were a lot of people that really did enjoy this, but that kind of slapsticky silliness kind of movies, they really enjoy. I'm someone who really enjoys comic book accuracy and seeing what I see on the page come to life. And it's okay when you change it for the better, and when like changing a Spidey suit for the better. Like, it still is, you still look at that and you see, oh, this is a Spider-Man suit. You've just added fun little details and metallics and lights that elevate the article rather than completely changing it. And that's what I thought that's what I enjoy in comic book movies. But if that's not necessarily what you like and you just like to see your heroes on screen, you're gonna have a good time. I just want movies to elevate. I want the experiences to elevate, and I want what comes off the page to elevate. I didn't get that from this film, but it is what it is. So that's my impression. That's my little 2 cents on this film, my spoiler review. Let me know in the comments what you think. And as always, friends, like, follow, subscribe, hit all the buttons. My name is Jasmine. I will see you guys for the next one. Hasta pasta.